What's up, guys? Justin Berry here, Crappie Expo, Crappie Connection. Got my side partner here.
Brian Chappell here.
Man, we got an ice fisherman. First time here on our show, an ice fisherman, Jason Young from Burlington, Wisconsin. Man, Jason, welcome, dude.
All right, thank you.
Now, as everybody can tell right here, we got, what do you got here in front of us? Tell us a little bit about that and a little bit about yourself and what you do with ice fishing.
Sure. So I'm from Land of the North. I'm from Wisconsin. We do a lot of ice fishing. That's what we like to do. We summer fish basically to buy the time until the lake freezes again. This is Garmin Livescope setup that I got. I pre-ordered mine 3 months before they ever sold the first one. I actually bought the first ice kit and never even took it out of the box because I watched a YouTube video that this one came out, and I took it right back to Gander Mountain, and I said, I don't want that. I want this. So pre-ordered it, and when I got it, I took it out in my canoe the first time and played around on a little electric motor only lake. And I was just blown away, right away, blown away. I went from a lake that I never even saw fish on in my life. It was an old gravel pit to finding brush piles and pulling out big crappie right away.
It's primarily black crappie up there, I'm assuming?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah, for the most part.
I know we talked a little bit about this setup, but what all do you have here on this deal?
So what I got is the chart plotter itself is an EchoMap 93 SV. It's one of the more entry-level units. For ice fishing stuff, you're moving around constantly, and you have to worry about battery power too. It's cold. I fished last year 32 below zero. So
ooh, that's my kind of weather out there.
Yeah. So you got
frozen fish in there.
You can't even see an ounce of skin on your body at that point in time. You're goggled and everything.
Are you fishing in a tent, or what do you call it up there?
Sometimes, a shanty. Yeah,
a shanty.
Yeah,
I'm learning this vocabulary now.
Yeah, and sometimes you are, but you got to move around. If the fish aren't where you are, I don't want to sit out in 27 below weather for no reason.
Yeah, because I was looking. Everybody is on the internet googling Livescope and everything.
Yeah.
And I first thing I thought about was ice fishing. I googled that, and I pulled it up. And I was like, my gosh, they just drill a hole. All right, we need to go 20 foot that way,
Absolutely.
And then you just dial in, just like you're picking them off anywhere else in the United States.
Absolutely, and when you're down here, when you're in a boat, you see the school move or whatever, you trolling motor over there, you just drop on them again. For us, it's different. You got your crap laying all over the ice, first of all, so you got to gather up all that stuff. Then you got your ice auger. Then you got this heavy unit in one hand now, and you look out, and I'll scan out, and I'll say, okay, 45 feet away, there's a school of probably bluegills up where we are most likely. There's a school, and I'll leave the fish finder where it is, and I will pace out 45 feet. And when I drill that hole, I look back on my fish finder, and you'll see that your auger flight, you'll see the disturbance right through the top of it. And if there's fish down here and you drill over it, you'll see that you just drilled directly on top of that fish.
Hey, Johnny over there, am I good right here? No, man, go 10 foot that way.
Exactly what you do. Fish with a partner, and you'll go away, and they'll say, oh, yeah, go a little bit farther. You went too far.
That's crazy.
Do those fish spook at all, like when you start drilling
They
holes?
do.
Okay.
They do.
I would think so.
Yeah, well, because, Oklahoma area, I don't know how much it is down here, but we have crystal clean water up there. Majority of the lakes you go to are very, very clean. So you're not like long pole situation like you guys down here have here, not happening by us. If you're 30 feet from these fish, they're gone.
So you're pretty much messing with a 3 foot rod, I bet.
Oh, less than that.
Less than that?
Yeah.
How big?
I think my longest is 27 inches.
27 inches? And what's the biggest fish you pulled in with that real quick?
Well, I caught a 32-inch lake trout last year.
That's nuts.
But that was, in all fairness, that was on my 40-inch lake trout rod, which is super, super stiff lake trout rod, yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, what about this complete setup? We're kind of touching on it, but walk us through this whole deal you got set up here, because it's so neat to look at.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about it.
So I'm running a shuttle for this. It's a 3D printed shuttle that's made by Summit Fishing Equipment. The guy Todd Dye makes it. If you go on Facebook and you go to my Facebook group, it's Garmin Marine Fishing Forum, and you'll find he's got stuff on there that he's listing a little bit, and then he's got his own website. We have a glow ring for charging glow jigs. I know a lot of people.
I was wondering what that was right there.
I know, and I get that a lot down here. A lot of people are saying, what is this? Is this where you put your shot glass or this or whatever else? And
right.
And they don't get the glow hasn't really made it down here a lot, but up where we are, the glow is a big deal, especially for if you're crappie fishing in your deep water. It doesn't matter if it's day or night. That glow makes a very big deal. Sometimes they don't want it. Sometimes they don't want it at all. It spooks them right out. But A lot of times fish that you'll drop down and they want nothing to do with you, you charge up that glow jig, and when it breaks the surface, you're 2-3 feet under the water, they're already turning and they're on their way up.
Really?
Yep. So for walleye, you'll take a full spoon, run it in and out of here a few times. You'll take, a 3 millimeter tungsten, drop it in there, and it makes a big, big difference. So besides that, I have an Energized Outdoors 27 amp hour lithium ion battery. Last year, I ran this setup different. I had a Milwaukee drill battery that I ran. My ice auger is a Milwaukee fuel, M18 fuel drill, mounted to a clam plate, and you drill. I drill all my holes that way, no gas on anything.
That's what I was going to ask you, because I've been watching a lot of ice fishing videos, and I'm seeing a lot more using non-gas.
100%. And, gas ice augers, they had their place. They really did, and they still do. Some places in Canada, the ice is,
thick.
48 inches thick. You got extensions on there, and if you know where the fish are and you plan on going out to a fish house and walleye fishing and you're only going to be in one spot, sure, bring your electric auger and drill your couple holes, and you're not going to have a problem. But if you want to pan fish and you want to jump around and you want to hole hop around, you're not going to make it in that thick ice.
Yeah, on that battery you just said, now you said you fished in minus what, 30s, what?
Oh, 32 below zero.
And how long will that battery last will it last all day for you?
This battery will last me 17 hours.
17 hours.
On this setup that I have right here, yep. At this show, the last few days, I've been charging it at night, and I've been running it all day. People have been fiddling with it and going through all the settings all day long, and it goes from about 13.1 to 13.0 volts.
Really?
In a 10-hour day.
Well, how do you charge it? Does it have a built-in charger on the side there, or?
Actually, it has. It comes with a charger. It's an external charger, but then it also has a port on the bottom, just a regular 2-prong port, male, female, and you can just plug right into that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's easy charging.
So, let everybody know that's viewing, watching, everything, how much for that full setup?
All right, so
I forgot to tell everybody,
Yeah.
you represent the bass tank.
I do. I represent the bass tank, yep.
How much full everything right there? If I wanted to say, man, me and Brad going ice fishing, we're going to do our own thing, how much money we got to drop?
All right, so the EchoMap 93 SV Plus, that's going to be $1,000. And there's a couple different ways to do it now. If you don't plan on ever taking this into a boat and using side imaging or using down scan or even 2D, then you don't need to buy the secondary transducer that comes with it.
Right.
The $1,000 price range comes with a GT52 transducer, and that's going to get you, really good side imaging. One step below mega imaging is what the GT52 is, and that's going to get you all that. But if you don't want that stuff, let's say you just want Livescope, you can opt to go without that transducer, and you could add it back whenever you wanted to. You can buy them separately. That's $850 for the unit without a transducer.
So we're at $1,850, right?
Yep, and the Livescope transducer, which I'll try to get this out of here, that is, excluding the pole, this transducer here, the triangle, that is 20 degree front, and that's going to be 135 degrees vertically is your coverage. So real skinny beam this way like a laser beam, and real tall all the way out and back. And that's $1,500 for that. For the transducer and the brain box that powers that transducer, $1,500.
Right.
$1,500.
Yep.
And the battery?
Battery, you know what? I'm not 100% positive on how much that battery is. I think it's right around the $300 range for that lithium-ion battery at energizedoutdoors.com. The shuttle is going to be about $130 for this 3D printed shuttle, and that comes with this transducer arm. Again, if you're thinking to yourself, I'm not going to go on the ice with it, that's fine. This shuttle is super nice. I bank fish in the river with this setup.
What?
With this Livescope.
Yeah.
Yes. I have a river across the street. It's really good for catfish. It's good for schooled up crappie and smallmouth.
Now, how deep of a bank, so everybody kind of get an idea of that?
Well, the bank is...
how deep of your fishing out more? How deep does
it
go?
gets about 20 feet deep out
20 feet.
in the center channel of the river, yeah.
Okay.
And over here where this creek comes in next to my house, it's probably 7 feet deep there. We have rocks that come in, we have brush, everything's all in there. And I'll take this on a pole, and what I'll do is I will angle this transducer. I'll take and do the clicks here so that when you're basically on the bank, you set that thing straight in there in the water, just under the water, and you can do this kind of thing, and you can see everything in the water, everything on that whole river. You can see the bottom, where the rocks are, where the fish are. You can see it all, and then you can cast out to them. And that that river bank fishing or dock fishing, that's a market that has never been explored.
I think of dock fishing automatically.
Absolutely, for sonar, and people, they go out and they dock fish, and you just fan cast, you throw bobbers out, or even in the river, you go back and well, I caught a fish there one time. Doesn't mean that same school's there.
Mm-hmm.
You go out within a few seconds. We have white bass that run up our river every year, and they come basically to the mouth of the creek that's right by my house where my land exits. And when those fish are there, they're a real tight pattern. Well, I can go over there and I can scan around right to it, and I can say, white bass are here. And they're sitting right there.
When somebody gets one of these units out of the box, and what are some of your settings that you go through and put on your unit? Besides, I know factory's good because
there's factory defaults, but to be honest with you, some of the factory defaults are more confusing, and they throw people for more of a loop than they do good. So there's a few different things.
So I guess your basic tips is what you're going to show us, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to show you a few basic tips. There's a couple things that people, they start to worry about. They see on the documentation, it says, see fish up to 200 feet away. Well, that's all great, but that's not really realistic. Right. If you're in a lake that has a real void bottom, just real, hard bottom and no weeds, you can go out 150 feet from your boat and you can scan around. And if you see something up here in the water column, and there's nothing else in there from experience, then that's probably fish in the water column, right? So then you just basically turn your boat and you start going that direction. So that, but you're not going to see there's 10 fish in a school 150 feet away. You're just going to know there's something over there. And as the closer you get, the definition really comes in. Then you start to really get on it.
When you're looking for fish, like you say, from the pier or ice hole, whatever, what distance do you like to have your unit set at?
If I'm just going out, drilling the first hole, doing my first drop, I'm usually 50 to 60 feet.
Oh, that far?
Yeah, 50 to 60 feet.
And you can identify pretty much what you're looking at that far away.
Absolutely, yep. If you're looking for a weed line, if you're looking for a drop off, if you're looking for schooled up fish, crappies, anything, you're going to be able to tell where they are.
50,
and of course, like anybody, you're gonna study the map first. You're gonna sit at home, and that's another good thing about Garmin is they have what's called the Active Captain app for either iPhone or Android, and that gives you all of your mapping. If you buy a unit that has mapping in it, when you register that unit, you get all the mapping right back to your phone. So you can go through at home and you can see all that mapping right on there. And it's Navionics mapping, so it's the best mapping that.
It's
and
good.
Anyone else that ran Navionics previously, you knew you had to buy the app, the Boating USA app, and that costs money every year for the subscription. Well, you're getting the best mapping and a really good app. Not only are you getting that, but you're getting the, I forget what it's actually called, but it's all the data when people record their own maps. You can download all that right to your phone too.
Wow.
So if I go out and download these maps, it uploads to the Sonar Charts community through Garmin, and you download that stuff, it pulls right up on here when you sync it.
That's money.
Well as,
Why don't you go through them tips?
Okay, so first thing you're going to want to do is what I tell everybody is, if you're out in a boat, let's say, and you want to, the whole point of all this is to see the fish.
We want to find some crappie.
Yeah, you want to see the
me
fish.
and Brad's on ice, and we're cold, and we're ready to get out.
You want to see the fish, and you want to be able to see your bait, or you want to be able to see your jig. That's the big things, right? So the first thing I always say, if you go out and you're trying to find the fish, okay, drop down 60 feet away, and you're just going to start spinning this transducer around, and you're going to start doing more of a, kind of a 360 pattern like this, and you're searching the screen as you go, and you're going to see if they're there or they're not, or if there's something you want to move over and drill more holes for, or move your boat and get closer to it. Once you found what you're going to get to, you go over there, and basically you're going to want to drop a jig down, and you're going to, whatever you think you're going to fish with, drop it down and make sure that you're pointing right at it so you can see it. Once you can see it, you come in here, and here, I'll give you a little. There's a good chance that depending on your water clarity, when you first hit this thing up, it's going to look like that.
Right.
Okay.
If you got dirty water, you're going to be looking at a situation like that. Now, if you have one of these units or you just want to see it, you go on YouTube, go to 818 Outdoors on YouTube. That's my YouTube channel. I don't have a lot of followers, don't have a lot of videos, but what I do have is really good tips.
818 Outdoors is your YouTube page.
Yep,
and you give tips out there on everything?
I do.
Right.
I have a few videos on there that are going to show you what I'm telling you right now in detail. And It's going to scare away some of the guys from the south because some of them are on the ice, and there people browse right past them. They say, this is on the ice. That doesn't pertain to me. Well, below that ice is the same water that you guys have here with the same fish. So just exclude the frozen nonsense on top.
Yeah.
So the first thing you want to do is you want to see your jig on here, and then you want to come into your gain and you want to start backing that gain down to kind of clear up your picture, but you want to make sure you always see that jig. So keep focused on your boat's not moving around or your transducer's not moving and you're still aiming at your jig.
So you can actually hit minus too much where your jig disappears.
Absolutely,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause like any gain on any sonar, if you start coming down here too much, you're going to clear out. Now you can't see the stick anymore for that, and then you can make your fish.
You're at
and the
54%. You can't see.
Yeah, and you can't see anything now. But this is also 40-something feet of water. If you're fishing to 15 feet of water, you can be even lower than that and still have it cleaned up. So you're going to want to come up here. Another thing to remember, this is technically it's closer to ultrasound than it is traditional sonar. There is numerous frequencies shooting out in, this is 3 transducers in one in this Livescope transducer. Each bottom to this transducer,
right?
That's a different angle for a different transducer.
Yeah, and I can kind of see the little.
Absolutely, and Garmin software tells all those transducers to play together, and that's how they make their picture. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you can see a little bit of clutter. A little bit of clutter in the water is not bad. That's making sure that you're going to see everything you want to see. If you have it cleaned up so much where you can't see anything, and you also can't see your jig, then you have now filtered out way too much.
Right.
So you don't want to go there. You want a happy medium between it. So once you see your jig and you still have your jig on the screen, all of that, you've ran your gain down where you took some of the noise out, but you could still see your jig. Then you're going to come over here into menu, sonar setup, and you want to start with your noise rejection. When you're on this noise rejection, that's another filter. And the thing to remember about this one is this is a broad filter for the whole screen. And that'll make sense in a second when I get to the secondary filter. So you want to start out here, low. It's not going to change anything on this screen because of the fact that it's in demo mode. But when you go low, medium, you might hit low and say, all right, it took some of the clutter out of there, but I could still see my jig. Then you hit medium, and it's like, wow, it cleaned it up really good, but I lost my jig. Okay, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you want to go back to low at this point. Leave it there so you can still see your jig.
Right.
Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go back. And this is where Garmin, they have this time varying gain TVG. A lot of people I've talked to here this weekend, they've never even heard of this. They have Livescope and they've had it for a while, and they've struggled in getting a clear picture, and they've never heard it's a TVG, which is a big, big deal. Before, you just had gain, and you had one transducer shooting straight down into a cone, and that's all that mattered. Now you have 3 transducers, and one's close, medium, and far. So what time varying gain does is it's taking this first transducer element and it's turning it down a little bit. It's taking that middle transducer element and it's turning it down a little more, and then that farthest one, it's letting it, wide open, full throttle, whatever gain you have set.
Wow.
That way, as its dynamic range from far to close. So when you're looking at your screen, if you don't have that TVG set to low, medium.
I think mine's off right now.
Well,
I really do.
Pay attention. And that's the thing is people will say like, wow, I put it on high and it cleared my picture right up. I don't have an ounce of clutter in the water. That's fine. But then their second thing is, but I can't find my jig. Well, that's because if you're just straight lining it right close to the boat, now you have that front transducer element. It's turned way down. It's too far. If you were to cast out 30 feet from the boat, you'd see your jig drop in the water because that farther element is at the full gain strength of what you're turning up. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing that kind of catches people up when they get into this. They think, well, I'm going to apply these filters and I got to get this thing to look, pristine, which I'll tell you on my personal unit, when I'm out on the water, my screen usually looks pretty pristine. But we also have really clean water.
Yeah.
All right.
And I also have thousands of hours on this unit on the water. So, and especially ice fishing, let me tell you, you're in a shack and it's cold outside and you have one hole and the water's not moving, the ground's not moving, your brush isn't moving, nothing is moving except for the fish.
Got the heater over there, you're all toasty in there.
Yep, I usually got like a apple pie on the heater on my homemade little rack, and it's going. And And you got nothing better to do than to fiddle with these settings.
And that's the only way you're going to get better.
And that's the way I learned a lot about this, is to just play with the settings. When I'm in 90 feet of water, everyone said it can't be done. You'll never see your jig in 90 feet of water. I'm lake trout fishing 90 feet of water with a 1/8 ounce jig head and a 2-inch split tail rubber, and I could see my bait clear as day 90 feet in the water.
And how many pound test line?
I think 6 pound test line.
And can you see that?
I could see the line, and I can see my swivel. We're talking ice fishing, so everything's micro. A very, very small swivel. You could see that down that deep.
Is there any other tips you want to show on there?
Yeah, so when you get done with your time varying gain, you're going to do that, and that's going to clear up basically this front half of the screen here is going to clean up, and the farther part of this picture, this screen here is just a shrunk down version of the full screen right now. It's going to clear this up, but this is still going to be full strength gain. So once you get done with that, you're going to go back all the way out of here, and now you're going to have a screen that hopefully looks closer like this. And hopefully you can still, something like that, and hopefully you can still see your jig at this point. If you can't see your jig at this point, that's okay, because now what you're going to do here is you're going to slowly start bringing your gain back up. And we were talking about the audio engineering world, and the fact of the matter is this crosses over a lot into that, and that's how I really got a good grasp on it, because all you're doing...
Like I could tell you're really all into it and like you're
for sure
in it, man.
And all you're doing is you're filtering out noise, and then you're bringing that gain back up, and then you're filtering out the next level of noise, and then you're increasing your gain back up, so you get the best signal you can. Each step you go, you're filtering it out, and then you're adjusting your gain back up. Your gain is like your output volume. So you're filtering the crap out, and then you're just kind of tweaking it back up, bringing your gain back up to make that stuff kind of pop back out. And, of course, that's not a great video because you can't see a jig or anything else. However, like I said, if you go on my YouTube channel, I'm out on my pond in the winter, and I drill into my pond, and when it comes out, it just pukes nastiness on the ice, because my pond, you can almost walk across this thing. And the whole reason I did it in there is because I specifically wanted to show the nastiest conditions you could get and how clear I could get this picture. And if you go on there, you'll see it, and it's really, really clear to how I work it out. Now, I have the blue color palette on here. Most people, when they...
I have the factory
So that's your
color.
favorite color?
Yes, you have the factory one. So
what's the factory color?
I'll show you here. I'll kind of get back into it. I just jacked that out. So when you're in this screen, menu, sonar setup, appearance, color schemes.
Yeah, amber.
This is what most people are used to seeing here.
Is it just your eye you think catches stuff better on the other colors?
I do. I really do. I think it does. And there's a whole secondary part to that I think you guys are going to really like. You may know this, you may not know this.
Probably don't.
Okay, so
I know I don't.
where I'm from, we don't have stumps. That's not a thing.
You don't even know what that is, do you?
No stumps. There's no stumps in any of the lakes. These lakes are, there's sand bottoms, and then there's tall weeds, and they go out, and eventually those weeds just stop, and then it's just sand or muck bottom all the way out to the deepest parts of it. So if we have any kind of trees in the water, they fell over, and they're just kind of laying in there until somebody cleans them up, basically. So in weedy situations, when you have like tall standing weeds, nice live weeds, any of that stuff, your fish are going to be hiding in the weeds. Now, if you are on this one, what you're seeing is you're seeing black and orange and some yellow, or what I'll call bright orange in this case. It's hard to distinguish really bright returns on fish, center mass of fish, when you're just dealing with black and orange.
Right.
So what I do is that's when I come in here and I'll go to this, and I always run blue personally. It's just what I like. And now what you're going to have is
Is there one better safe if you have a lot of stumps and wood than the other as far as picking up things?
I don't think so, because personally I think I like this color scheme because what I'm going to do real quick, it's going to give us a little bit better on here, is I'm going to adjust this depth range to fill the whole screen up. It's just going to kind of show us
That's a good little tip, actually.
Yeah, don't ever run your unit on auto depth range. It's going to make you sick by the end of the day, because anytime you go from shallow to deep, this screen's going to go vroom, 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 and it's going to constantly adjust, and it'll drive you nuts, especially if you've like fishing drop-offs or it's not good. So I run it on manual, everything, because I'm a control freak. Ask my wife. It's not good. I want to control all of this. If there's something's filtered, I want to tell it to filter it out. End of story. So what I do is I run it on this blue. Now, we're not really going to be able to see it here because there's not a lot of weeds on here, but I'll give you an example. Sonar setup, appearance, color gain. This color gain, if you watch, I'm going to turn it way down, okay? You still see the objects. Now this, in my opinion, is closer to what you're seeing when you have it on the amber color setting. You're seeing blue, and then you see some other blues mixed in with blues, right?
I see what you're saying. I see where you're going with it.
So now what you're going to do is you're going to bring this up, okay? You start to see more your harder returns are in red versus versus a brighter of the same color. So you're going to come up and you're going to come up, and it does a little lag when it's on the demo here. But now you see how you see the center mass of these fish right here?
Yeah.
When you have weeds, your whole goal is to get in those weeds, adjust your gain to where all the weeds are just going to be the same color. And then what you're going to do is bring that color gain and start bringing it up. And what you're going to happen is the fish that are hiding in those weeds, they're going to start to turn bright red. Your weeds won't, but the fish will.
And that's how you pick them out.
That's how you tell you right then and there that is where those fish are in the weeds. You can pitch right out to them then, and you can find them in the weeds.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
100%, yeah. And that's something I've talked to guys this weekend that fished this tournament, and they came up and they had a few questions. They didn't make the cut day one, and they had a few questions about it, and I'm telling them about this, and they're like, wait a minute, hold on now.
Back up.
What now?
Back up.
Yeah, because we're fishing, fishing brush piles, and we can't tell if there's fish in these brush piles or not. Well, you haven't fiddled with your color gain much, because that's a big deal in this. It's similar to contrast, and it just makes those
separation.
Let's say it's color gain. So it's your gain for your certain colors are being exaggerated more than others.
I'm learning so much here, and you got all this on your YouTube page?
I do. You know what? I'll make a video more on color gain. Like we just talked about, I don't have one in depth on that yet, but I do have some other stuff as well, as how to clear up your picture, how to do jig tracking. I have one on my boat where I'm showing you basically. So many people get mixed up because they don't understand how sensitive this is. It's a 20-degree cone. 20 degrees, 15 feet from your boat is, you're dealing with a 1 foot wide area that you have to pitch your jig into.
All right, let's say you say 1 foot wide at 20 foot.
Oh, don't quote me on that that spec, but it's that tight.
All right, a quick question for you is, how would you get somebody out there, and how do they need to practice to get better on this Livescope as far as identifying fish and target them in open water?
So what I always do is I'm going to tell everyone, do not take this out on a nice windy day for your first time, because boat control is key when you're working with Livescope. Like we said, very narrow beam. It's like a high-powered flashlight with a narrow beam on it.
Yeah.
If you're in the wind and you're getting blown all over the place and you're just starting out, you're going to be extremely frustrated right away. So what you're going to want to do is get out there on a nice calm day. If you got an anchor up somewhere where you might already know what you're going to be by. If you know your lake, there's a brush pile somewhere near, go near that, anchor your boat down, 2 anchor if you have to, so you're not going to be moving around that much. Drop down and spend some time with a decent sized jig. Mm-hmm. And honestly, you could even run a bobber and a jig and something like that, a jig, a split shot above it. Give yourself some targets in the water to identify right away, and then start working on your cast. You look at your trolling motor. If you got it mounted on your trolling motor, usually all of them have some kind of either an icon on the top that tells you where it's pointing, or you're just going to know by where the motor's pointing.
Yeah.
Some of the new trolling motors, though, the front and the back of that motor look awfully similar, in my opinion. And I've seen people go ahead and they get a sticker like of an arrow, vinyl sticker, and they put it on there. It just makes it a little easier in the moment when you just glance down at it and you can see right where that is. And for Livescope, that matters because your boat's not moving. You're just aiming something. So you're going to get nice and pinned down somewhere. You're going to get that transducer aiming out there, and then you're going to work on basically side casting is not going to be your friend when you're working with Livescope. It's a lot harder to cast from the side because now basically your beam's coming straight and you're coming in this way and you're trying to intercept it at that moment, drop it right in the hole in that beam. So what I like to do is I like to do an underhand pitch straight in line with where my trolling motor is. So wherever I'm pointing, if I'm pointing straight ahead, I'll just take and basically do an underhand pitch straight in line with that and it'll go straight pretty much right out in that beam wherever you're going. If you're pointing off to the side, it's a little bit different. I mean, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I do one of the whirly-do type of cast where you do a full 360 and then send it,
I do
and
that.
you'll get a straight line shot that way instead of trying to load up the rod and it goes either
I
way.
always try to do over my back and just straight over.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yep, that works too.
I look
yeah.
like a fly fisherman. I got that thing doing 360, and then I just go
Hooking somebody, I can see it happening.
right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and like anything else, bass fishermen are really good at, you're pinpointing your cast. They're casting constantly right at the docks, dropping in right at the prop of a boat all the time. So those guys shouldn't really have a problem with it. Crappie guys too, if you're more of a long line fisherman, just with a long rod, you might have a problem casting out far distances and dropping it right exactly where you want to go. But hey, it's practice. We're learning more with this technology now than what we ever knew about fish behavior, hands down.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
That's at Arkansas State and Game.
Yeah,
Oxygen.
aerator. Yeah.
What were you gonna show us?
Oh, I'm just basically saying that, you can fish the same lake your whole life, and you can fish a lot, and you think you know a lot about fish behavior, and then you jump on Livescope, and you're on here for I'll be as bold to say you take it out for one day on here, and you start watching actual fish behavior on areas that you thought all your life, like I throw a crankbait here, and I'm just going to run this crankbait right over, and it's whatever size you do, whatever depth, and I catch them. Well, then you go out there with Livescope, and you realize you see the fish sitting, a foot off the bottom, and your crankbait's running, you're 5-6 feet above them the whole time, and you run it right over their head, and they don't move.
Right.
Well, on a day when those fish were aggressive, that
They come
worked
up
out.
off that
That
bottom,
worked
right.
out, yeah, and that worked out. But the thing is that now that fish was there all along, and that crankbait's not going to work today. So you switch over and you throw a Texas rig, whatever you want, you pitch it out, go past them, drop it down in the weeds, and pump. Right when you get to that fish, you just stop. And you'll start to see. You can go as far as you can start to see when you do something, you'll see the fish's fins start to flutter. And when you see them fins start to flutter, okay, what I just did was pretty much what he wanted. Either I pissed him off or he's getting getting hungry for what I try to do. And if you drag him out and man,
I've noticed on crappie whenever I come by them and they turn up,
100%, yeah.
he's about to hit it.
Yep.
There's no doubt about
Yep.
it.
And down here where they're a little bit more aggressive, by us ice fishing world, they are so docile. You find if you get on a crappie bite where they're like coming up and they're cranking it, you're on a special day because
That's a special day.
That's a special day. Yeah. Usually they're not like that. Usually they're very finicky, and you'll drop down a very small 1/64th ounce like tungsten fly or something like that. And you drop it in there, and you'll see the fish. And I've coaxed fish for 20-30 minutes on one fish, working them from the bottom, and you raise them up and you get them to chase a little bit. You raise them up, chase it, and you're in 15 feet of water, if that. And they come all the way up about 4 feet from the water, and this is 20-30 minutes into this, and you're just arms are tired from you're just quivering your hand because that's transferring down the rod, down the line, and they come up to it, and you see the jig disappear into where the fish is, and then you just see that gap open back up, and they turn and they swim away, and you're like, that was 30 minutes of my life.
Is that a typical trying to get a fish to bite up north?
I wouldn't say that's typical, but that is not atypical.
What do you say since you've had Livescope and gotten good at it? How much has your catch increased in your personal?
Oh, way more than 100%.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's lakes by me where I went out and I've tried it a few times. I never caught anything, especially ice fishing, because you can go around, you can get pretty mad quickly when you're jumping from spot to spot and you're drilling holes and you're not seeing anything. And anytime you go there, well, the fact of the matter is, I have a video I made, first ice fishing. It's super clear ice. It's on a rock quarry lake, and I show flat out and simple when these guys with their Vexilars and these other fish finders, the rule of thumb was always drill and drop your transducer in the water until you see fish. When you see the fish them. Okay, that's great in theory. I disproved it instantly when I showed him that, okay, I put it in, I shot over, 25 feet that way is a school of fish. I left it right there. I went over, I walked over, and as I walked to them with the camera angle this way, you can still see my screen. As I walked that way, you watch the fish go down and away. Just as I walked over there, and we're in 15 feet of water. Those fish moved out, okay? And then you see me drill a hole. As soon as I drill a hole, that school of fish moved 5 feet next to me. They're not under my hole anymore. So if you're in 15 feet of water and you got a Vexilar with a 12-degree cone, conical cone, you drop that in there, you don't see those fish. Then you move over and you drill another hole. Well, what you did is those fish just moved over again. So every time you're drilling a hole, the fish are there, they're just moving. So you're chasing and you're never actually finding these fish. And the funny thing is, when I fish, I don't care if it's the slipperiest ice that I've ever been on. You guys probably fall right on your butts out there. I don't wear cleats. I don't wear creepers. I don't wear spikes on my shoes.
Sound.
I don't wear anything.
Sound?
Oh, it's so important. And my brother-in-law, he was big. He wears what's called Catulas, and they're like, bear claws on the ice. You're not going to ever slip. You'll blow your knee out before you slip and fall. And he wears those. Well, I'm fishing. He'll walk over. Boom. Those fish are gone. And I'm like, hey, man, stay over there. And, especially when you have kids and stuff out with you, they're running around, and I'll be the one getting yelled at by people like, stop yelling at the kids. They're just trying to have fun. I'm trying to catch fish, and they're running circles around our tip-ups. Those fish are not going to come over and bite, So the amount.
What's another really crazy thing you've seen fish do?
I don't really know, to be honest with you. That's a good question. I mean, the flat out behavior that you can see fish. I've fished in 25 feet of water, and you see fish pretty close to the bottom, tight little school of them, and you drop down on them, nothing. They don't move. They might actually move out away from your jig a little bit, and then they come back in when you come back up. You switch your bait, you do it again. You switch your bait, you do it again. You switch your bait a third time, you don't make it 2 feet under the surface of the water, and those fish are turned and they're already swimming straight up for you.
No scent, just a different.
No scent, just a different jig.
Do you believe in scent?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I was fishing crappies northern Wisconsin, so almost up by Lake Superior, and I was using the gulp, split tail. I forget exactly what the kind is, but it's a silver bottom and a kind of a black top, split tail minnow, small jig head. And those fish, we tried everything. I tried night crawlers, like pieces, they didn't want it. I tried this, didn't want it. Tried hair jigs, they didn't want it. You take that gulp and you put it on there, and you pitch it out there, and right away they react to it. Really? They come in and they crank it. We caught well over 100 crappies. Now they're not, your guys' size down here.
Pounder.
They're between 8 and 12 inches. But here's the thing: if you had a crappie that nipped it and you pulled the tail down even a 1/16 of an inch from that jig head, they would not touch it. They'd swim up to it, and they'd slowly back away, and they'd go right back to their spot again. And you'd know right away. You reel it up, look at it, that tail's from straight, it's tweaked up slightly. You reset it, drop it down, 3-4 of them come up, crank it.
That's crazy, man.
That's what I'm saying about fish behavior. Nobody thinks it. When I drop shot for smallmouth, if you use a night crawler piece and you just single hook that on there, they won't get it. You take that night crawler and say you have a hook that looks like this, you feed it through once, and you come back and you make it so that night crawler is like this on there, so it's sticking kind of straight out. They'll come up and they'll nail it.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's real crazy.
You let it dangle, not going to happen. Straight out, they want it.
What about color?
I mean, color definitely makes a difference, and that's why I'm saying before, like where you would have thought in the past, like color doesn't matter so much. You got to get your presentation or you got to get that down there. Well, I don't know what the difference is, but when a jig that's just falling naturally and it's the same jig with a different color plastic on it, and you went from red to, this is even better. You go from red to black to pink, and then you went to clear, and they didn't react to any of them. And when you drop the clear-bodied plastic, and it gets a couple feet under the water and 20 feet of water, and they're already turned up coming for it.
That's the moneymaker.
What did they want? A bare hook at that point?
Yeah.
They reacted to a clear. I don't know why, but you learn about behavior. You learn more about fish behavior than you ever knew.
What about like
in your
rattlers?
life.
Have you played with rattlers yet for crappie?
I wouldn't say for crappie, no. I mean, again, up by us there, everything's a little more finicky than it is. I mean, you guys are using stuff down here that I would use for bass, and you're catching crappies
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
it, so.
Yeah.
Well, what
Bad
about
at 300s a lot of days in the summer?
What about since first guy ice fishing on the show? What's the go-to? What's the bucket list like? Like everybody talks about in America, probably Grenada. What's the best? Since you're from up there, What's the best ice fishing lake for trophy crappie?
Trophy crappie.
I'm talking about, I don't care if it's even Canada.
I don't think it would be Canada. Now, if you ever go on and you watch Uncut Angling,
That dude's crazy. I
Aaron,
like watching
Aaron
that
Weave,
dude.
yeah, and so you've seen his ice fishing videos, and he gets into bites where, it's going to be your 16-inch, 17-inch crappies,
Yeah.
and he's slamming them. Around by us, they're not quite that big, and I haven't branched out so much into the whole state of Wisconsin crappie fishing, so I don't really know a good answer for that. However, I'll say close to my home, Lake Geneva is a amazing lake.
Around Geneva, Illinois?
Nope, it's Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
Okay.
So basically what you have in Lake Geneva is you have a town that is a really ritzy town. A lot of people from Chicago come to Lake Geneva during the summer. The population quadruples on the weekends. And the lake is amazing. It's super deep. It's the second deepest lake in Wisconsin. It is really crystal clear water. They have amazing weed. They have muskie. They have giant walleyes. There's pictures of guys, 38-inch walleyes, just
Good
the
Lord.
fattest bellies you've ever seen on them.
But as far as biggest lake, from what you know, if you could travel anywhere right now that you know, what lake would that be?
I'd probably go to Geneva.
Geneva.
Yeah.
For the biggest crappie for ice fishing.
That I know of.
That you know
Yeah,
of.
That
That
I
you
know
hear of.
personally. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, but I don't guide either.
Yeah.
So I don't really know that. I do know that if you go to Castle Rock Lake, it's mid-state Wisconsin, pretty big lake. It's part of the Wisconsin River flowage. So you have the Wisconsin River comes down, it hits Petenwell, and then it goes to Castle Rock Lake. Castle Rock is really good for numbers of crappies. They have a lot of big, you're talking 12, 13-inch crappies often. Creek channels that run through, and you guys don't know this, but it's a thing called tip downs. Tip down fishing is revolutionized crappie fishing for ice anglers, and basically it's the most simple setup you've ever seen. It is a stand, and it is a small ice pole that sits on the stand that is perfectly balanced, so that if it goes down, it'll come back up. And it's basically the pivot point is at the handle.
Yeah.
And you basically you run your line down with a split shot on it and a tiny treble hook, and then you just basically dorsal fin hook a small minnow, and that'll sit down and they'll just swim. The goal is that if the crappie takes it, he can't get quite to the bottom before the tip of your pole hits the ice.
Right.
So tip down fishing is amazing. It's good for kids, it's good for groups, it's good for guides, because in Wisconsin you could do 3 lines a person. So you go out there, I would get my 3 tip downs. My kids would each get their 3 tip downs. Before you know it, I got 15, 18 tip downs spread out in a small area, and you're watching all these poles that are just sitting there.
It's kind of like jug fishing, I guess,
Yeah,
but on ice.
So and the thing is that they're so balanced perfectly that the crappies take that minnow and they don't know that they're pulling it down, and the amount of resistance is very small. Like if the wind blows, the tip will do this and it'll come back up. So you'll be sitting there and you're hanging out with your buddies or whatever, and you'll look over, okay, I check my tip downs, you check your tip downs, check them again, and one's flat to the ice. And then it's a scramble, whoever can get to this thing first. You run over and grab the handle and you set the hook, and the tip bends down and you pull it out right away, and it's a really fun time. The kids love it too. Kids will beat you to it half the time, and they'll pull it up and they'll pull up a nice crappie or a nice perch, and
That's awesome.
it's a great time. Yeah,
That's awesome.
and the time when you hook up with a bass or a northern crabs or something, and right when you said it, you knew right away, whoa, that's something different.
Yeah. That's awesome. And we said earlier off air, but a lot of them guys up north that ice fish, you said, are seasoned anglers, and they wait to crappie fish until it freezes over, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I mean,
totally
there's
different world from us right here.
There's a lot of guys, a lot of places you drive around and you'll see what look like little sheds in people's yards, and those sheds are ice houses. They're made, made just like a shed, and they got basically old sets of skis underneath them, and they're ready to go. And
So that's typically their boat. They're tweaking out their boat
Yeah.
for the season.
except for
Stepping
they
out
got a
the
big
sled.
screen TV
Yeah.
in it. They got a satellite in it. They got the Packers to be playing on the TV when they're out.
That's
Refrigerator. They got propane, heater mounted in the wall. A propane tank outside, and they do, and they wait until that ice gets, and you don't have to take those in at night. They'll stay out on the ice all season long.
Really?
Yep. There's a certain date you have to have them off by, name, address, and stuff on the door, and some reflectors and stuff. But and people wait. People wait. And the good thing about ice fishing, one of the reasons why I got into it and I love this so much, I didn't have a boat growing up, so I didn't have any independence at all. If I wanted to go fishing, either it was from the dock or I had to try to get with a buddy who had a boat. And then you know how it is fishing with buddies and their stuff. You're on them. So ice fishing, you go out there and you park your car at the road and you grab your stuff and you just walk. And you can walk anywhere on the lake you want to. And I explain ice fishing like this. If you've ever geocached, geocaching is, treasure hunting for adults.
Right.
If you've ever geocached, ice fishing is going to be a mixture between camping, geocaching, and fishing, basically all at the same time. So you go out there and you got your little tent, you put that up, so now you're camping. And you're geocaching, you're looking at the map and you're studying your map and you have your points and you say, I want to hit this, this, and this. And with today's technology, you drive out there and you go to your map, and when you line up with that exact mark, you drill your hole and you know you're on that hump or that exact brush pile. And when you drill it and you're like, man, I've studied maps all the way from, my house for weeks in advance and for going up north, doing a tournament up north Wisconsin. You get to a lake you've never been to, and you drill out and you drive out your, four-wheeler side-by-side truck sometimes, whatever it is. You get out there and you get to that point where you've been thinking about it. You've Google mapped this. You've satellite imaged it, everything. And you finally get out there and you drill that hole and you drop down and you're like, man, it's here. That spot is here. What you thought you saw was there, and it was. It's really a great time.
I know we just keep talking, but when you talk about tournament ice fishing up there, how do you weigh in fish, and surely you don't have to try to keep them alive, right? They're frozen when you weigh them in?
No. It's a lot of tournaments are catch and release.
Catch and release. So weigh it and then throw it back?
No weights.
All right, no weights. Length.
And that's different for you guys too. And
I didn't know that.
Even me, my personal best bass, I don't have a weight for it. I have a length. I'm going to say 21 and a half. That's all. I like up north, we don't really weigh stuff like that. We just do length measurements on things.
Maybe that's why on all social media, they're like, man, I caught inches, and we're like, I'm thinking about, what about the weight though? What was the weight on it?
Right.
I guess that's why.
Yeah. So when we do tournaments, all ice tournaments are pretty much all done by length. Yep.
And like total of your whole catch?
Nope. Individual fish.
Individual fish.
Yep. Individual
like
fish.
Like your best seven or?
Nope, as many as you catch that day, and there'll be a leaderboard. So basically how it goes is you catch a fish, you throw it in a bucket of water, you bring it, you leave your spot or whatever like that, and you go and you bring it up to the weigh shack. They'll have someone set up there, and they'll take a measurement on a bump board of it. A lot of times they'll have a hole right there, and they'll put it back down the hole and release it. And then you'll have guys that are set up by the release area. They want to catch these fish, and they're not going to catch them. But so then that's how it goes. Then you go back to your spot, or if you have kids, that's even better because now you can sit there and still fish. Tell your kids to run this fish up to the thing, and they're running back and forth, and they're looking at the leaderboard all the time. And
man, I got to experience that up there.
Yeah, it's totally different. And that's the good thing is you can place. You could take first place northern, second place northern. You could take first place. You could take all the places. Essentially, you can clean house. Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's not just like you win
first
the
place
tournament.
And that's it.
No, it's like you cleaned out panfish division, you caught biggest bass, and you caught top 3 northern.
Wow, that's crazy.
Well, I'll give you an example. We went to a tournament. There's a kids tournament that they put on, like the 4-H puts it on the same reservoir that I film one of my videos on. And I went to this thing years in advance, back when I had my old Lowrance fish finder, and I never found any fish. I fished it for days on end. I drilled hundreds of holes back at that time with a hand auger. With a camera down there, cameraing everything, and I never saw a fish. Finally, I got onto Google Maps, and I said, I'm going to go back in time. I went through the history, and I found out that, when it was a gravel pit, there was pictures of when it was still an active gravel pit. So I started dropping Google pinpoints on a 1982 map, and I pinpointed out a roadbed that was elevated roadbed. So I went out there the next day when it froze up, and I drilled across this area, and I found out that roadbed was just there. They left that pit as it was, and they filled it with water. So all of these fish during winter, they go right over and they collect right on top of that spot on that roadbed. So we went out for the kids tournament, and I'm already stoked at this point. I'm like, we're gonna do good because I know I've already caught them, and I know I've talked to everybody, and they can never find fish in this lake. So we cleaned out perch, we cleaned out bluegill division, we cleaned out trout division. My kids were running back and forth, and these tip downs are just banging the ice everywhere. And you know, you got other people like, really again? And my kids are on the front page of the newspaper. They're holding all these fish. We cleaned out the whole division.
That's awesome.
And I didn't even have Livescope at the time, so I want to attribute that to Livescope. That's just how mapping goes sometimes, and how ice fishing goes, and that's how the way part of it goes. You know.
Yeah.
Definitely a fun experience.
Anything else you want to add, Brad?
Man, just definitely appreciate you coming to the show. I definitely enjoyed it today.
I could talk to you for hours about ice fishing.
And for sure, and you know, like I said, I'm with the Bass Tank. They're out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. They do installs, they do sales, they sell Lowrance, they sell Garmin. There's a full lineup of their stuff. They don't have a website up yet. However, if you do look them up, if you go onto either my forum, go onto Facebook, search up their name, The Bass Tank, and you'll find their page. They have phone numbers on there.
Yep.
They're guys. You know,
great guys.
Yeah,
real good guys, real good friends.
They're thousands of hours of time in Livescope, as well as just, you know, some of the top bass fishermen in the country as well. So they have a lot of experience in exactly how this stuff works.
Well, guys, Jason Young, find him on YouTube. I just subscribed. 818 Outdoors.
Yep.
Other than that, I'm Justin Barry.
Brad Chappell.
Jason Young. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys. We'll see y'all later.
Holla.
About a mile from Big Muddy River, a place I'll always remember. Cabin on the lake and a fishing pole. Forever here I'll rest my soul. I could be